Well, in continuing a look back at Occupy, some interesting developments are starting to be made public that we want to discuss now. You might remember one of the issues many Occupy protesters spoke about over the last year was their concern they were being surveilled by police. While many movements in cities around the country spoke with police on a daily basis, there were some people who said they believed police were going undercover, taking notes, collecting information about people, activists, which would then be turned over to authorities. Well, it turns out those so-called conspiracies may have in fact been accurate. The American Civil Liberties Union has obtained initial documents they had to file a lawsuit to get their hands on. And contained in these documents, information about surveillance of Occupy demonstrations. With me now to get to the bottom of all this, J.D. Tuccille, managing editor of For Reason 24/7 News. J.D., these 13 pages of documents show that the FBI was monitoring Occupy events, in particular the Port of Oakland shutdown on November 2nd and the multi-city West Coast port shutdown on December 12th. Talk about the significance of this.
Well, it's amazing, really, when you look at these documents the FBI released, how banal most of what they're picking up on really is. You have to wonder, well, not just wonder, it seems pretty clear that we're in a reflexive national security state at this point. When they're reporting on barbecues sponsored by the Occupy movement up at the Anchorage port, when they're talking about how well the Occupy protesters are getting along with the longshoremen over in Oakland. There really wasn't a lot for them to report. There's nothing of note to speak of except for minor violent incidents in these reports. Now, obviously, there are other documents that the FBI chose not to release, and they claim national security and foreign policy grounds for not releasing those documents. We don't really know what's in there. But based upon what they did release, they really weren't picking up on a lot of information, whatever investment of time and effort they're putting into spying on a peaceful and perfectly legal political movement.
I want to go back to what you just said. I mean, these documents, these 13 pages, these were released only after a lawsuit filed by the ACLU. Most of them are apparently not being released. And as you said, the FBI is citing national security as a reason. What's going on here? I mean, do you think that these authorities believe that the national security threats, events are being planned at these Occupy protests?
Well, let's hold it the minor possibility that there's actually something of note in those documents that the FBI held back. But by and large, I think this is a reflexive response on the part of the federal government at this point to simply invoke national security concerns every time they do something. They don't want to be known to be spying on us. I'm not sure there's a conspiracy behind it. I think it's just their go-to, what they do almost reflexively at this point. That's of concern in and of itself, because everything is not a national security issue. They should not be spying on peaceful political movements. And they shouldn't be keeping secret the fact that they do so when they do so.
It was really interesting because, J.D., we have been at the Occupy protest actually since a year ago today, since they first started. And it took a couple months, but a lot of these protesters we spoke to actually said they were concerned that this was happening, that, you know, police were going undercover or they were being spied on, that they were being surveilled. And a lot of people said, you know, these Occupy activists, they're crazy. They're conspiracy theorists. Nobody wants to spy on them. What do you think it signifies, the fact that they were correct?
I think it signifies official paranoia. And it's amazing. In some cases, the feds may have been the only ones on the scene. Part of the report includes the fact that the Anchorage Police Department didn't even send any personnel to the protest up at that port. But the feds were keeping an eye on it anyway. And again, you know, there's nothing earth-shattering in the documents they released, but they very clearly were watching these peaceful protesters. And it's, so, yeah, Occupy had reason to believe they were being spied upon. They were being spied upon.
I mean, can anything be done about this? A lot of people are concerned these days, especially with, you know, the birth coming soon of drone surveillance cameras. Some of these drones much smaller than what anyone would be comfortable with. So you have this going on in Occupy. You have a whole lot of people starting to be concerned about, hey, you know, is everyone going to start being spied on in this country, even if they have no grounds for being, you know, looked after by authorities? What can be done?
Well, I think your point's a good one. I think the authorities want to spy on whatever they can spy on. When the capabilities grow, when it becomes cheaper in terms of demands on the resources, yeah, they'll send the drones into the sky with the cameras. They'll send the undercover agents out into the field. They'll do what they can afford to do to watch us because that's their reflex In terms of how we stop that, great question. Right now we have a Democratic administration spying on Occupy. It made sense to complain about, say, the previous administration, the Republican administration under Bush spying on Occupy, but the other party's doing it now. So who do you go to? We have two major political parties in this country. Both do the same thing. So it's not like you're going to change things by turning over to, from one party to the other, Democrats to Republicans. They're both national security freaks. They're both paranoid.
Well, and we certainly talk about this issue quite a bit here on RT. And one of the responses we often get from people who think that this is legitimate, that this is important, they say, you know, if you are not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about, so maybe, there are surveillance cameras all around the cities of Tampa and Charlotte, where the two political conventions were just, where they just occurred. So what? Because if you're behaving like an outstanding citizen, you have nothing to worry about. What's your response to this?
Well, I think we're all doing something wrong, in quotes. Harvey Silverglate, the civil libertarian, had a book out a couple of years ago called 3 Felonies a Day. That was his estimate of what the average American committed every day without knowing it. There's so many laws, there's so many regulations on the books that he figured the average person was committing 3 felonies every single day. If the authorities want to catch us doing something, they will. They can. We're all breaking minor regulations, laws, big ones even, all the time. We don't even know it when we're doing it, and sometimes we do. So, yeah, we do have something to lose by being under surveillance. We have our freedom, we have our privacy, and maybe even a little bit of naivete as we find out exactly how many rules it is that we're enmeshed in.
And what's your take, though, on what's going to happen in, the next 4 years, no matter who becomes president? I mean, do you think that people will start complaining, constituents will start demanding that those representing them in Congress and the U.S. Senate, that they make changes?
There is constituency for that. There certainly is. There are a lot of people out there who want to be left alone, who do not want to be spied on. And I would say that runs across the political spectrum, whether it's Occupy, whether it's Tea Party, whether it's Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, whoever it may be. Are they enough to make a difference in this country? Now, that's another question. The Obama administration right now is pushing to reinstate indefinite detention under the NDAA, which was knocked down last week by a judge. This administration wants to reinstate that. Its main opposition, Mitt Romney and the Republican Party, doesn't want to get rid of it themselves.
Right.
So that constituency really has no place to go in terms of the major parties, in terms of major outlets. They can make noise, but I don't know that we're going to win. Yeah,
certainly some interesting topics. J.D. Tuccille, managing editor for Reason 24/7 News. Thanks so much.
Thank you.